Helldivers 2 has been out for about 4 months, and people are still asking, is it worth buying? And I think it's a fair question considering how much controversy there was, how much negativity there is in subreddits and Discord. I think it's not easy to get a good picture of whether or not you should play Helldivers and jump in a little bit late to the Helldiving. So that's what this video is going to be all about, the pros and cons of the game and whether or not you should purchase it. Now, I was prompted to make this video because I finally crossed the 200-hour threshold into the game, so I feel like I have a good pulse on what's going on. With that said though, it is normal to be burned out from a game after 200 hours of playing it, so know that there may be some biases I may not catch even though I will try and be impartial. And if you're one of those folks who doesn't want to watch the whole video, I'm not going to make you watch a whole long video to get an answer, so I will give you the answer up front, and that is, if the game is $40 and I played for 200 hours, I more than got my value out of the game. So if you're able to buy it and play even half as much as I did, I feel like that is a good value for the game. So I will say yes, if you can enjoy it, then you're going to get your money's worth out of it. Now the question is, will you enjoy it? And that's why we're going to talk about the pros and cons. So let's talk about some cons first. The first big con is that this is a game that is intended to be played with other people, and it is hemorrhaging players. We have consistently seen a large drop in players. Now, there are still enough people playing that you're not going to run into like a situation where you're not going to find anyone to play with at all, although that could happen if we continue to lose players. The big con here is with the major order system. You get major orders, which is the high command in the lore telling your character to go do something, whether it be take down a planet or eliminate some bugs or whatever they feel is the current order. And that is the players are supposed to go work as a community together and go complete that mission, kind of like a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons. But as we're hemorrhaging players, those are getting failed more and more often, which means the story isn't unfolding necessarily as they want to or in a satisfying way because we're just failing orders left and right because there's not enough people to get the orders done, and there's a bunch of people who just flat out ignore the orders. For me, this is a huge con. This is not fun. I enjoy the lore of the game. I enjoy the lore of the world, and I enjoy kind of role-playing it and getting into it, like, yeah, we're going to go do the major order. We're going to go do this fun thing. And when the community is not there and not present, what's the point of playing an online game if the community is not going to participate? So that's a big con for me. The second big con comes from playing with random players, which I believe is how most of the community plays. Certainly there are groups of friends who play the game and don't run into this issue, but I think the vast majority of people hop on, jump into quick play, and just play with random people. And what that causes is, on the higher difficulties, 7, 8, or 9, you have so many large enemies to deal with, you feel like you have to bring a kit that can only deal with them because you can't rely on the random players to bring a kit to deal with them. This forces you to not get to use all the stratagems that you want to use. Often you're feeling forced to bring a bunch of anti-tank stuff even if that's not what you want to do or what you want to play, and that's not fun. And while every single gun is viable and every single stratagem is viable in its own way, if you're stuck on a team with randoms who have no way to deal with the tanks like the Bile Titans or the tanks on the bots, and you brought nothing to deal with them either, it's going to make the entire game a headache, a slog, and just not fun, even if you can win the mission. And to add on to that, I guess this is point 2.5, maybe point 3, the balance is still kind of horrendous on the weapons. There are like maybe 3 or 4 primary guns that are actually good that you would use in most situations. Meanwhile, my favorite guns like the Arc Blitzer just are so worthless that you can't bring them even if you want to play with them. Sure, you could drop the difficulty down and beat the game on difficulty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with those guns where it doesn't matter, but that's not how I have fun. I want to play on the higher difficulties. I want to play on the harder difficulties. And I can't do that how I want to do that because of the limitations with the kit and the guns. Next con, even though they have been working very hard on this, and I do want to give the praise to Arrowhead that they have been working on squashing bugs, there are still so many game-breaking bugs, glitches, freezes, and ways to get kicked out of the game that you can spend 30 minutes doing a mission and get randomly dropped from it and get nothing for it, and that feels like a giant waste of time. When the game came out, we all understood. After a month, we said, hey, we should fix these bugs. We're going on 4 months and these bugs still exist. That's a problem. I'm also going to put the community in the cons list. Like we talked about, a big portion of the community ignores major orders, which is not fun. But if you spend any time on like the subreddits or any place where people gather like Discords, you'll see that the community is toxic, awful, very whiny, and just not very good when it comes to this game. It's not welcoming, it's not fun, it's just a bunch of crying and whining and people demanding Arrowhead make changes overnight. And I do see the irony of me making a video about the pros and cons, sounding like crying, and then talking and complaining about people crying. But the community in the Discord and the Reddit is something way different. It is way, way worse. And I encourage people not to go to those spaces, which is a problem, right? Again, I enjoy the game. I enjoy the lore. I enjoy interacting in the community. But when I have to tell new players to avoid these places just because they're so toxic and so bad, that's a problem. So, a quick overview of the cons. The community is toxic and awful. There are still game-breaking glitches and bugs that waste your time. The gun balance is awful, and often you feel like you can't play the game the way you want to play the game, and that's just not fun. Again, being forced to play a certain style when there are other viable ways just doesn't feel good. And I want to be clear, despite all these cons, I still love the game. And granted, I am starting to get burned out on the game, but in all fairness, again, that is with over 200 hours of gameplay, I have more than got my money's worth. So let's talk about some pros. First pro is I think this game is going to be genre defining. In the way that like Dota and League of Legends led the way for making the MOBA genre the way that it is, in the way that Doom created the first-person shooter and solidified what it is, I think Helldivers 2 is going to solidify this style of game. And I think in the next few years, we're going to see a lot of clones of these games and people trying to recreate the chaos, the fun, the AI director, everything that makes this game what it is at its core. I think we're going to see a lot of people trying to emulate. So why not experience the granddaddy of it all? The second pro is that it is fun. Again, it took over 200 hours for me to start to say, I'm not having as much fun as I was. And that's not me saying I'm not having fun at all. That's just not as much fun as I did the first 200 hours. 200 hours of pure fun is a great deal, again, for $40. And the game is so cinematic that no matter how you play, what planet you play on, or what you're bringing, you're going to have moments where you feel like you're in a movie, where you feel like you're a hero, or you're making a huge sacrifice, or you're getting blown around the map, or you're taking out 100 bugs. Like 200 hours in, you're still having these cinematic great moments. It is an absolute riot to play. Another pro is if you have friends who you play with regularly, bringing in multiple people means you can do a lot of things you can't do with randoms. As I said, I often feel like I can't bring the gear that I want to bring because I can't depend on randoms to bring other gear. But if you can coordinate with other people, you can do a lot of wacky things and have a ton of fun, including mechanics that often don't get used, like the teaming up to fire rifles faster ability. Another pro I'll give the game is that there is obviously a lot of passion in this game. The game has been out for 4 months and we've consistently had new guns added to the game, new stratagems added to the game, new lore added to the game. Here soon we're getting an all new enemy army. Fingers crossed that happens next month. They obviously still love this game and have a passion for it, and it's not just phoning it in. It's not just, okay, we got to add one new gun to make them happy. It's clear that they really do love doing this and providing for us and want to make a good game, and that passion comes through. Another huge pro with them constantly adding stuff, this being a live service game, is even if you pick it up now and only play it for a few hours, when you come back to it, there'll be more content for you to enjoy and play. Like I said, we're hopefully getting a new army here soon, so that means if you pick it up and say, okay, this is fun, but I want to play something else for a while, that's okay. And when you come back, maybe you'll have new enemies to face, maybe you'll have new guns to play with, new stratagems to call in. There will always be something new. So often live service games is seen as a con. I'm going to give it a pro in this category, again, because of the passion and because they've made it clear they are going to continue creating content for a while for this. Another pro I'll throw on the list, even though this may not be a pro for everyone, or many people probably this doesn't apply to, is that the lore in the world building is so fun that if you're a content creator, if you write fan fiction, if you do anything in that realm, you've got a lot of fun stuff to play with. And we've seen a lot of really creative and fun videos, stories come out of this. So if you're a creator in any of those ways, that's a huge pro that it's got a lot of fun world building to play with. So to sum up the pros, it's a fun world, it's an absolutely fun game, there's tons of passion, and there'll be new content to play with. And they may fix those game-breaking bugs hopefully here soon that will remove a few of the cons as well. So should you play the game? Absolutely. Again, as I stated so many times, I've played this for 200 hours and I'm still having fun. If you think there's any chance that this genre is for you, I guarantee that for $40, you will not get a more fun game in 2024. The core gameplay, the bones of the game are there. Sure, the balancing is still off. Yes, there's glitches. Yes, there's things that they need to fix. But you can't fix a bad game that has no bones. Here we have a great game that has some flaws that a few balance patches, a little bit more time will make it an excellent game. I still think this is a contender for Game of the Year. So if you're on the fence about buying it, you should play it, experience it, and even if you only play it for a little bit, when you come back, there'll be even more for you to experience. If I missed any pros or cons, please put them down in the comments so we can discuss them. And always like, subscribe, all that sort of thing. It greatly helps me, and I have to say it. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day.